Hello.
Hello.
You good?
Yeah, I'm good. Oh, everything's good.
You not been at work today? No work today?
Why was it today? I have got an extra day off tomorrow, so at least meant I,
Nice.
I say wisely, but no, I have to cover the boss next week.
Oh, not
No,
fun.
I'm in charge.
You're in charge.
Yeah, I am.
Oh god.
Don't you know God?
Like I don't know. Like just you're the boss. You gotta be all boss like.
Like, you can do any better.
I've done it before.
Have you?
Yeah, I actually have.
No, but my boss absolutely sound.
Yeah, mine never have been.
My boss is absolutely sound. If she is listening to this, if she ever does at some point, you're absolutely sound.
I've got to go on like a meeting with PR agencies thing with my boss next week, and it's going to kill me. 3.5 hours in a car.
Oh no.
So yeah, it's going to be fun. Just like today's podcast episode.
Yay!
Because this is going to be disgusting.
Well, hopefully not too disgusting because I'm currently eating a yogurt which has bits in it.
You're the guy. Do you like yogurt with bits in?
Well, it's mango, papaya, and passion fruit. It was reduced, and I actually really like yogurt.
I like.
Try to make a conscious effort to eat more.
I mean, same. I'm just not a big fan of what it's got. I feel like, no, to be fair, I like it with bits in if I know that there's going to be bits in it. But you know, when you get some brands that just don't tell you, and then it's like it's like a surprise, but like you weren't expecting it, so it's not a good surprise.
The bits are tiny. I mean, some of these yogurts have really big bits in them, but I know what you mean. I hate that when you eat something and you don't either eat something that's supposed to be soft, but then it's hard, or something's supposed to be hard and it's soft. Then you just it's on the same category as that. You eat it, and because it's like a thick mixture, you can't see the bits that are underneath. So you'll take a big thing, you'll go, ugh.
So today we're gonna be talking about a man called David Parker Ray. I felt like last week we had a fairly tame episode, whereas this week is literally the complete opposite.
Yeah, I thought I knew who this guy was, but I realized that's Ray Parker Jr. And that's the guy who did the Ghostbusters theme. So
Yeah, it's definitely not the same guy. Because David Parker Ray is known as the Toy Box Killer.
Ooh.
And he is one of the most sadistic serial killers the world has ever seen.
So far.
So far.
We hope there isn't another one, but, you know.
Like, so he started abducting, sexually assaulting, and killing women when he was only 15.
I mean, the young cases of people doing stuff like that, it's very, very, very interesting, but also weird to think that they were almost your age, you know, close to our age, kind of, at 15. And you think to yourself, because who was it? There was one that appeared on my Snapchat, which was the 13-year-old, the ginger kid with the glasses. Can't remember what his name was. The one that killed that boy on the way home from school or something. Oh, no, I can't remember. But just like seeing that and it being like 13-year-old killer, I'm thinking, I was 13 years old. I was on probably my Xbox playing Minecraft. Well, these people are out here doing all this shit. Like, come on, what?
Oh, yeah, I know. It's so fucking weird.
I didn't even think about doing any of that at 15, so this guy's definitely messed up.
Yeah, this guy is definitely messed up. So he was born on the 6th of November 1939 in Bella, New Mexico, and he wouldn't get caught until 1999. So,
Oof. So that's what?
Bear in mind, he decided doing this when he was 15, and he doesn't get caught until 1999.
Damn.
So it's like 45-year crime spree. And
that's...
yeah, it's a long time, and he would have possibly killed about 63 women in multiple locations across the US. And all of it was recorded in a series of diary entries. And that's how they know what he did.
Oh, so I guess that's made it easier to identify folk, right?
So one thing we need to add is that there will be pretty much no talk of victims' backgrounds or anything about the victims, because all of David Parker Ray's victims were never found.
What? None of them?
None of them.
63?
There is obviously, I think there's one that escaped before he killed her, and that's how he will eventually be caught. Spoiler alert, but this is a very big case. And that's basically it. Like, everyone else was never found. Their bodies are still missing. And the only reason why the police really know he did it was because of, like, the evidence, the other bits of evidence that they found.
So no justice for the families then?
Not really.
In terms of there's justice that he's in prison.
Yes.
Or whatever's happened, but no justice that they haven't been able to track the bodies of their loved ones.
Exactly.
That's a shame.
Yeah, so this is a very, very dark case. He was born to Cecil and Nettie Ray, and he had a sister that was named Peggy. Cecil was an alcoholic that would abandon the family quite often and would return every 6 months or so, but his visits were always quite terrifying for David. So even when he was being nice to David, he would show him violent porn images which left a mark on David's mind. He didn't really have any other adults in his life that gave him a positive outlook on what life was. Not much is known about his mum, other than she eventually left Cecil and took Peggy to live with her sister, but she neglected David, and some say that she might have been an alcoholic or a drug addict, but no one's really certain. But David was basically left either with his auntie or with his very odd alcoholic father. David said that his auntie was the one who took care of him most of the time when his parents weren't around. However, David recalls that this time, as anything, he said he wasn't really sweet. It said he wasn't like nice at all. He recalls that she would force him to have sex with her. It's not clear when this began, but apparently it lasted for years. It got worse when she forced him to take part in her twisted sexual fantasies. So his life's already off to a very fucked up start. And bear in mind, his crime spree starts when he's 15, so at this point he is under the age of 15.
Forcing anyone to do anything like that's gonna leave a mark.
Oh yeah, exactly. So, according to experts, it's possible that his aunt had an intense drug issue, just like the rest of the family, and various other mental health issues. And with the burden of her sister's children on her, she let out all of her frustration onto David. Because of all these pornographic images and violent sexual fantasies of his family members thrown at him at a young age, this caused him to be very much damaged as a child. Like, this left a mark on his brain. And later on, David wouldn't be able to separate the idea of violence and sex, because that is literally all he's been shown since he was a literal child. Like, you're not going to know that the two are separate.
Wow.
So in his mind, sex had to include pain and intense violence. Otherwise, you weren't doing it right.
I mean, in some cases, on some forms of sex, a little rough violence is the main premise of it, but not all of it. So the fact he's assumed everything about it is violence related is severely messed up.
Oh yeah. So when he turned 10 in the early 1950s, David and Peggy moved in with their grandmother, who lived about 25 miles east of New Mexico. So she didn't sexually abuse him, but she wasn't really nice to him at all. She was strict and apparently evil and would constantly abuse him, and he ended up being very lonely and spent most of the time walking around the grounds of the farm on his own. And around this time, David started to become a bit more creative, and he'd go through scrapyards and junk piles and he'd go through and stuff to try and take them apart and put them together again, which a lot of people found impressive because he was only 10. But see, this is a thing that he could have used this skill to turn it into something better, but he decided to take this new form of creativity and skill and turn it into what would eventually be the toy box. So he was only 10 years old, and he began writing down his sexual desires in a diary, and he wrote about how he intended to cause pain to women during sex. He said this began when he was 10 and he wanted to harm a woman with a broken glass bottle.
Oh, whoa. Red flags going everywhere. 10.
He's 10.
Damn, at 10, I didn't even think about harming anyone. Not even crossed my mind, let alone sex. Jesus.
10, you don't really know what it is. You have like a really shit sex ed lesson and that's basically it. You still don't know what it is.
Yeah, it feels as though like at certain ages it's common for people just to discover things, you know what I mean? But when people discover it way earlier than someone else, it's either a good thing, maybe for something, but in most cases, stuff like in this case, it's like there's no way he should have seen any of this before that age, you know what I mean?
Well, yeah, exactly. So yeah, for a while he kept these interests of his in a diary, and it was very much a secret. But when he turned 15 years old, he wanted to find his first victim. So he would be whenever he was approached by a girl, all he could think of was the different ways that he could sexually violate her. And at some point in 1956, he found his first victim. So most of David's early crimes come from David himself and everything that he logged in his diary. He would only log. So sadly, he would only log the year, and the age, the year, the length. So the year when everything happened, how long it took, the age of his victims, and what he did to them, and that was it. So nothing on who they were, and nothing about what he did to them afterwards. He just would basically say that, yeah, he killed them, but he wouldn't say what he did with them. He wouldn't know what their names are or anything.
I mean, it's weird to note down the length. I mean, what's the point in that? Was that for him to be like, oh, I did this one and it took forever. I need to work on it and make it happen quicker or something.
Well, his whole thing was very similar to Saw.
Oh, so they had a certain amount of time to live.
Basically, yeah, and he had like a TV screen, or like a radio in the toy box, and he would basically do, you know how like Jigsaw does it, like pops up on the screen kind of thing. Basically, did shit like that.
That's key. That was around your neck. That's flowing down the plug hole in the bath. You are now screwed. Justice for Adam should have lived. Sorry. You mentioned I just had to get my vocal opinion out there that Adam should have lived in the first Saw movie. Yes. But yeah, so he's kind of the inspiration for Saw, is he? Or
I think I googled this at some point. So
because it's so weird that you mentioned that, because I thought like the Saw thing, I'm like, oh, no one would have really done that sort of thing, but and like the 50s, that's like a precursor to
apparently it's loosely based off a couple real life events. It wouldn't shock me if it was, but there's a bunch of different like theories on what Saw is basically inspired by.
just in having it in the 50s is a big precursor, and as you've just described, it seems very similar. The whole radio, when you've got a certain amount of time to live.
Yeah. So this entire episode is going to be very graphic. I'm going to have to go into detail because obviously that was what was in the diaries. So his first entries began in 1955. His first location was Ranch Grove. He claimed his first victim was 15 years old and that this was his first sexual experience, and that the two of them pretended that it was rape, which I highly doubt. I can't imagine a 15-year-old also being like, yeah, I'm fine with this. I mean, I'm hoping not.
No.
So he said he tied her to 2 trees with a rope, holding her legs apart while he played with her, which sounds it. He said that the girl enjoyed the experience, which means that the experience would have been consensual, which wouldn't have really matched with the whole, like, first victim kind of thing, if this was the case. But in his second diary entry, which was written down in 1956, he put this down as his first kidnapping and his first rape. So he wrote down that the victim was very pretty. He also noted that he kept her captive for an entire weekend, listing the location as Pine Shadow Trent in New Mexico. And he possibly took her from the local village and kept her there. He raped her and wrote down the details in his diary. It is also possible that this was also his first murder, which means he would have done his first murder, rape and kidnapping when he was 15.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
So, him tying up to the tree, he clearly must like BDSM. Right?
Yeah, I mean, like, I'm not going to say BDSM, only because I know a few people who are in that community, and they are not like this.
Well, no, my assumption is that tying people up seems to be,
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong, anyone, but, because I'm not into those categories. I'm not into that. But, like, at 15, I don't think, if anyone came up to me and was like, yeah, I'm going to tie a tree, I'm getting no enjoyment out of being tied up, especially at 15.
Yeah, exactly.
So I don't know about the whole thing that she was okay with that sort of thing. Seems a bit weird, but
yeah. So for the first time he committed this possible murder, but now after that his little desire got out of control. So when he was 16 years old, he obviously had already murdered one person. Shortly after this, David and his sister Peggy moved in with their paternal grandparents, the Parkers. One of his classmates recalls David was very small for his age. They remember him being very quiet and refusing to look anyone in the eye. Apparently, whenever a girl would come by, his face would go red, showing that he had no social concept when it came to interacting with women. And he got bullied quite a fair bit because of all this. I mean, it's really funny that they're all bullying him. If only they knew what he could do.
Yeah, I mean, bullying someone for getting a bit, anxious, not knowing how to approach women. I mean, I was 15 and I didn't know how to approach women. I still don't know how to do it now, so bullying people for that. But yeah, you're right. Just laughing at him when now we know that looking back, it's like, oh, you're laughing, but boy,
if you looked in those diaries,
you don't want to do. If he'd gone for male victims, probably he would have murdered his bullies.
Yeah, exactly. So they would steal like his scooter and damage it in front of him. He's riding a scooter, so yeah, that right.
No, not his Razor scooter. Damn.
David would never stand up for himself, making his classmates believe that he would never do anything out of the ordinary. So he carried on with high school, and as he was doing that, he was also carrying on with his little fantasies. As he goes into 1957, David's first entry in his diaries included the details of another abduction and rape of a 17-year-old girl. The location of the act is so secluded, experts are still discovering most of it to this day. So where he did this this crime in general, the area is still being discovered. Like, there's still parts of the area that people are being like, oh, I didn't know this was here.
Wait, so did he not write down where it was, right?
He wrote down the location, but he... I've not got it here, but he did write down the location, and where it is, it's absolutely massive.
So is that why they can't pinpoint the exact place? He's put, like, too big of a location type thing?
Yeah, basically.
Because I thought if it was, like, very pinpointed to, like, a street or somewhere, then that would be easy, but...
He mostly just does, like, either, like, woodlands, or he'll just say a woodland. Not even that, a woodland, he'll just say a town. He'll just keep it very basic.
Oh, yeah, then I can understand why they wouldn't. And because now things have changed drastically, and buildings knocked down, buildings put up this there, this put over top of something.
Well, yeah,
if he's just
exactly.
written it down, where he did it could now be a barber shop for all we know.
Exactly. So this diary entry is a lot different to the last one, since this one mentions an accomplice for the first time. His journal states, "Shirley helped me. The girl almost got away though. There was a lot of experiments performed on this girl. It's not known who Shirley was and how she helped David out exactly. No one knows if the girl escaped or if she was murdered as well, but there are no police reports about an abduction or rape from around this area or around this time, so it's possible that David and Shirley murdered this victim too. And they would carry on their acts together later that year by abducting a 20-year-old woman and taking her into the same location as their last victim. In David's diary, he wrote, "Shirley set her up for kidnapping," which means Shirley took an assistant role in all the crimes, and no one knows what she got out of this agreement. She just was always there.
But this is even more like Saw, because Saw had an accomplice. Jigsaw had an accomplice in the Saw movies. Ooh.
Yeah, so, like, one thing that was speculated was that Shirley was friends with the girl and they were out drinking one night and Shirley lured her away to David. The girl was possibly offered drugs and that's how she ended up in the secluded cave, because it was a cave that he took him to. He forced her to the ground and tied her up with ropes. David told her everything that he was going to do before getting out his tools. So he used to... Sorry, everyone. He used to pierce her skin with the tools all over her body before killing her and burying her in the desert. They carried on with their crime spree later on that year.
When you say tools, what tools?
Typical, like, surgical tools.
Oh. So when you like pierce the skin, it wasn't like taking a screwdriver and just stabbing it in.
It possibly was that too.
I know that sounds graphic, but it just helps get a better understanding, because when someone says tools and it means pierce their skin, my mind's thinking, well, either he stabbed her with, I don't know, needles or something, or he took an actual drill and started drilling in.
I can't fully remember, because I did write this research up not like a fair bit ago, so, but we will get to where he escalates it, so...
Okay.
There's some bits where you're gonna just wish I hadn't said them.
Let's see then.
And I also want to point out to everyone, as per usual, when I'm talking about murder, I have got a very comforting film on, so I've put on Enchanted, because I needed something happy. I'm not joking.
Just minutes.
Yeah. I'm holding Pikachu right now.
I mean, it's so weird. I'm eating a yogurt going, oh, what tools did he... Just casually eat a yogurt asking what tools did someone used to stab into someone. You know my yogurt. I guess food's my comfort thing, although it doesn't really bother me, but...
It doesn't really bother me, but I like having a bit of comfort, especially with this one. So,
yeah, I thought you'd have had a film on, so...
Yeah, I always do. So they found a third victim by accident. So they found a woman with a flat tire. They found out that she was 17 years old and very trusting, because she had no one around to really help her. When she let her guard down, they punched her, knocked her down, tied her up, and placed her in the car before driving her to the same secluded cave, where they grabbed their tools and carried out the rest of their sadistic sexual games. With most of David's victims, this woman was never identified. She was the only person that they kidnapped in 1957, but they found another victim at a bus stop after this crime. She was 18 years old, and they pretended to befriend her before kidnapping her and taking her once again to the cave. They tied her up with her legs painfully spread apart. He practiced breast bondage, which is a technique that stops the circulation to the chest, while Shirley pulled out the victim's pubic hair individually.
Sorry, do people get off from cutting off circulation in your chest?
I have no idea.
I mean, that's weird. I mean, pulling off pubic hairs.
Yeah.
I guess free waxing session, I guess.
I mean,
But
not individually.
still weird. Yeah, but still. Oh.
Yeah, so they did various other parts of torment on their victims, and a lot of their victims were just constantly passing out due to the pain.
Oh wow! So then they probably passed out and never woke up because they probably were then dead. I
Probably.
presume.
So it's estimated that David and Shirley abducted and tortured 4 different women in 1957. David had become an experienced torturer and serial killer at just 17 years old.
Damn.
Yeah, and the next year he graduated from high school, so he's doing all this while he's at school.
I hate that because it's just the fact is that high school, there's so many folk in there and everyone's doing their own thing, thinking about their future while they're in amongst someone who's doing something messed up. They have no idea, and then when they'll find out, it'll be like, ugh, like what I was, and it's like, no. Walking round past this, while this guy's doing it, it's just, I always hate that, the unknowingness.
Yeah. So after graduation, he moved to Albuquerque and became a mechanic. He found a good place to use his, creative skills during the day, and at night he would go out to various local bars. Even though David was torturing and kidnapping women for his sexual fantasies, he apparently looked for more romantic relationships with other people. So he began meeting women and eventually started a relationship with a 17-year-old girl. And she had no idea of what he was obviously doing and what he had done. And they, after only a few months of dating, they got married in 1959.
Rushed.
Yeah, quite rushed. I mean, to be fair, it's the 50s. I'm not really surprised.
Still rushed, though.
Yeah.
Not enough time to know.
Oh, yeah. So during this time, he had a growth spurt. He went from 5'6" at graduation to 6'2".
Whoa!
So he grew. He joined the military a few days after his wedding day as a mechanic. He was stationed in Korea, and even though he probably never saw any crossfire, investigators suspect his sick sexual behavior didn't stop while he was there. So they thought that, he might have been traumatized and stuff like that. It's like, no, he's been doing this for a while.
We probably would have still been doing some of this torturing and killing in Korea.
Yeah, exactly. So,
oh God.
Yeah, during brief moments of his leave, he managed to get his wife pregnant. In 1960, she gave birth to David's first child, a boy that they named David Elvin Ray. And days after their son was born, David went back to Korea. And obviously, the distance and the constant leaving for work thing took a big toll on the marriage. And David's wife ended up giving their son to the New Mexico State Department of Public Welfare. And this, the only thing that David did that was fairly okay was he returned home, filed for divorce, and got full custody of his son. So he left his son with his mum when he left to go be redeployed in Texas. But to be fair, from what we know about his mum, probably wouldn't have done that.
Yeah, is this guy still alive?
David Parker Ray?
No, it's his son.
He was born in like 1960, probably.
Yeah, because I'm assuming he's... a lot of the public eye have been asked about this stuff.
Yeah. So, at the end of 1961, when David was on leave, he met another woman and married her in the winter of 1962. Their marriage didn't last long, and they were divorced 2 months later.
Ooh.
So, not long after that, David was discharged from the army. He then moved back to New Mexico and got a truck driving job. He was still abducting and raping women, and he actually claimed 2 more victims a year, sometimes more. All of which were unidentified. Either they were murdered or refused to go to the police out of fear from the experience. Throughout this time, David escalated his crimes. In 1963, he kidnapped 2 girls to practice a new torture technique. One of his victims was a 22-year-old victim, the other a 25-year-old hitchhiker. He wanted to practice with electroshock therapy by attaching jump cables and attaching it to their boobs, basically.
Oh, I knew it'd be the nips.
And he used to use enough power to make it feel like their bodies were on fire. And later on, he would perfect this method where it wouldn't be noticeable on the bodies afterwards.
Sorry, just I'm laughing, but it's just the idea of someone thinking, you know what I want to do? I want to shock a woman's tits.
There are people out there like that.
Who thinks of doing it? What? That's just stupid. That's dumb. Like, and getting any enjoyment out of that just seems stupid. If anyone even came to me and said, hey, can I attach jump leads to your you know what? I'm like, what is wrong with you? This man's got a weird ass mind to think he wants to try that stuff out. That's...
Yeah.
Oh no, I can't believe that.
So by 1963, David Parker Ray was only 23 years old and had possibly murdered, tortured, and raped over 20 women.
Ooh.
I'm 23. I don't have any time to do shit. How the fuck has he got time to do this?
I think it's one of those things where, like, he prioritized that over everything else and just did it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, like, basic necessities of, I might need to get groceries, screw that, I'm going to go out, not get my groceries, and kidnap someone instead. And that, because that he's done it so much, you just get into a forced habit of that's the priority, and you prioritize that over anything else, and everything gets shoved underneath.
Yeah, that's a good point. So in 1966, David met Glenda Burdine. She was 18 years old with a toddler and was looking for someone to help her raise her child. David was a tall 26-year-old with a steady job, and they got married in a shotgun wedding very close to the time that they met. On the 2nd of May 1967, my dad's birthday, they had their first child together, named Glenda Jean Ray. Shortly later, David moved in with his new family, but then he would eventually abandon all of them.
Yeah, what does it mean by shotgun wedding?
It was very quick. And they just decided to do it on that day.
Okay, so that's what shotgun wedding means. It's just that you skip half the stuff and you just shorten it down.
Yeah, it's like when people go to Vegas to get married.
Ah, so like what it was in Grown Ups.
Grown Ups?
Oh, no, sorry, not Grown Ups. The Hangover.
Yeah, I was about to say Grown Ups.
Why did I say Grown Ups? I
don't know. Like, I watched that movie yesterday, and I was like, when the fuck did that happen? What did I...
Sorry, no. I was just thinking of movies, and my brain's like, yeah, you know that movie? Oh, yeah, Grown Ups. No, not Grown Ups. The Hangover. There was shotgun wedding and that, yeah.
Yeah, basically like that.
Ah.
So he became a drifter. He was moving all over the United States quite quickly, using his mechanic skills to get, odd jobs here or there to make enough money. Everyone who met him at the time thought that he was charismatic and intelligent. But he soon got tired of this life and he moved back home and tried going back to Glenda, and she was like, yeah, that's fine. Come on in. It's fine. I don't care if you let you left. It's cool. He took up a course in airplane mechanics and he passed pretty well. And he became an airplane mechanic. He moved his family to Tulsa for this job very quickly. According to his kids, he was a great dad. They didn't suspect anything. But with all this, he still carried on doing what he was doing at night. Kidnapping, torturing, raping at least 2 women a year. So in 1973, he was just 33 years old. He kidnapped 5 different women. 2 were hitchhikers that he picked up and tortured. Another 2 he picked up at a bar. And the 5th victim was a 30-year-old mother who had her son with her when he picked them both up.
Aww.
So he took them to... I'm not joking when I say the name of this lake, by the way. Elephant Butt Lake.
Is that a thing? Nah.
It's Elephant Butt Lake, but it's like butt with an E on the end.
Elephant butt. Was derived from the eroded core of an ancient volcano, now an island in the reservoir. Elephant butt.
Yeah, so basically this lake is the perfect location for David. And it's also a serial killer's dream, because the lake starts off very shallow. It has a very but then it has a very large dip which takes you down over 100 feet. And the bottom of the lake has a particular ground that if an object gets to the bottom of the lake, it just swallows it.
Wait, what?
Sorry, I missed that. Could you say it again?
My phone just went off and scared the living shit out of me.
Siri, I just said, what? Wait. Oh, yeah, he's in the notable people under this page. But really, so... What's at the bottom? Almost like quicksand.
Basically, yeah.
Oh, that's nuts. That was a way to say, well, it's a lake. Go to the bottom, find the bodies.
Yeah,
What?
there's no chance. So apparently he tortured the 30-year-old mother, then murdered her and her son and put both of them in the lake. So you're wondering how the bodies never got found? There you go.
And they can't even go to the bottom of the lake and dig up what's there.
If they go to the bottom, they've got a risk of them getting swallowed.
Is there no way where you could excavate out the
No,
lake, drain it, go down and...
probably not.
Well, I guess the effort you take... it might not even be worth it to go through all that hassle to do that. Especially now, because the bodies would have eroded.
Yeah, exactly. So in 1986, he is 46 years old, and he had been doing this for around 30 years at this point. He was so thorough with his crimes and cover-up, he was never arrested or investigated by the police. But this all changed in 1986 when his own daughter went to the FBI. So basically, Jessie, who is his daughter, had grown up pretty much very aware of her dad's sexual fantasies from him sharing images displaying such acts to her since she was a child, which is what his dad did to him. She knew of the crimes and that they were very much illegal. However, she thought that they were just part of everyday human behaviour because that's what he taught her to believe. However, she got into a fight with her dad and she decided to get her revenge by going to the FBI. So the cause of the fight isn't known. However, Jessie seems to have only gone to authorities for her own reasons and not for the fact that her dad was, raping, torturing and murdering women. Her information appeared to be very much interesting to the agents, and they were very shocked by everything that she was saying. And she was basically just explaining absolutely everything that he'd done. She told them of his fantasies before dropping the bombshell of him abducting and even possibly selling women in downtown New Mexico in a sex slave trade. Her accusations were so shocking they immediately began an investigation into David Parker Ray and even started looking for victims but couldn't find any. They brought David in multiple times for questioning, but when they brought him in, he mentioned quite openly about his sexual fantasies and even spoke about his ads where he posted ads for sex toys and sexual partners. Like, he was very open about some of it. He said that since he was 13 he had been obsessed with BDSM and sadism. He is not an example for sadism, by the way. Just want to...
What's sadism? Is it...
Satanists.
Oh, okay.
He is not a representation for Satanists. I know a couple, and they are against all this shit. He said that his urges kicked in when he fantasized about what he could do, including killing women, so he's openly telling the FBI all this. He practically told the FBI everything about what he'd been doing. The investigation went on for an entire year, from around the summer later in 1986 to summer 1987, but they failed to find any evidence for any wrongdoing on his part because Jesse couldn't give any of the names of the victims, so they just believed that the accusations and the admission that he had was just the rambling of a madman, and the case was closed. Like, he literally sat there and told them everything. They're like, nah, he's just crazy.
Yeah, the fact I was looking at this elephant butt thing, and on his Wikipedia page, Arizona, New Mexico, while living in Elephant Butte, which is approximately 7 miles north of a place called Truth or Consequences. Like, New Mexico, I swear, I remember hearing about this place called Truth or Consequences, but New Mexico, sorry, what the hell are you doing? A place called Truth or Consequences, an Elephant Butte, like, lake. Get your shit together with naming stuff, man.
So yeah, after this he was just left alone to carry on killing women, and he even abducted and potentially killed 2 unknown women whilst the investigation was still going on. One was a 25-year-old sex worker who he chained up and subjected her to all kinds of torture. He had her kidnapped for 2 weeks. Whether he killed her, sold her as a sex slave, or let her go, no one really knows. The second woman was a 15-year-old girl who he found hitchhiking home from school. He said in his diary that he preferred her because she was smaller, like a Barbie doll, and easier to handle. Which is, if I ever hear a grown man say that he likes them being small because they're like a Barbie doll, I'm calling the police. I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
You fucking weirdos.
Oh, a lot of times when I see men when they're like that.
If your reasoning for getting with someone who's really short is because you like the fact that they're like smaller and you like the fact that they're easier to handle, or because they like have like childlike-ish features and they're a grown adult, then I'm calling the police and I'm getting your hard drive checked.
Yeah, I always find it weird as well. Just even when a man says, "Oh, I like a really small, petite," kind of.
Like, again, if your type is shorter women, that's fine,
Yeah.
but just say it like that. But you don't have to basically describe a child when you're describing your type.
Yeah, a lot of people when they say the petite thing, I think to myself, are you just because they're small, or are you having this other edge, which is like this guy where it's like, you're edging on terms where I think it's a red flag.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. So, even though the FBI were investigating him at the time, they didn't notice any of the shit that he was doing. At some time in 1986, Jessie made up with her dad, and it was only a matter of time before she began to help him. So, during his mechanic's job, he managed to have half the business, which helped him to afford to own 2 houses. So, he started to do pretty well financially. His partner, his business partner said that he basically wanted to sell part of the business, and that didn't go well with David. His partner was a man named Billy, and he was so scared of David that he told his family that he thinks that someone might kill him. He even wrote in the employee handbooks given out to everyone but David that if something happened to him, they should ring the police if he goes missing. Very soon later, Billy went missing, and his co-workers and family members immediately did everything that he said. Straight away, an investigation was opened, and they questioned David. He denied being part of it. The police were still suspicious of David, but there wasn't really any evidence or a body that could prove that he had done anything. In the same year, he abducted 2 more women in Phoenix. One was an 18-year-old sex worker, the other was a 16-year-old runaway. They were tied together for 2 weeks, and he said he shared them with a friend, which showed he had another accomplice. He then bought a trailer, which he then soundproofed and started building his homemade torture devices inside. Eventually, this trailer would become the toy box.
And I'm looking at the images, and
I was about to say, the
word.
toy box, there are pictures of the toy box on Google.
Yeah, what's happened to it now? Is it destroyed? I hope it is.
Destroyed, yeah.
So, I mean, they had to take evidence photos for it, but there's the Barbie doll. Okay, that's concerning.
Yeah.
Just looking at it, I mean, if anybody wants to, you can, but the wall's just like so complex with all the stuff that's on there. My eyes are trying to scan it, what I should be looking at, but oh. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff on there. That's messed up. Whoa, okay, I'm not looking at that.
Yeah, there's a lot.
There was a whole contraption. That was
Yeah.
some...
So, in September 1989, only a few miles away from David's house, a fisherman noticed a tarp floating in the water. He immediately called the police, and then he attempted to bring it into the boat when they noticed it had 2 anchors attached to it. The body in the tarp was of a man that had clearly been submerged for a long time. From the sight, the man had been murdered from a single shot to the head. The body was so badly decomposed that he was pretty much unrecognizable. But David knew who he was. It was the body of Billy. And this was like 2 years after Billy had gone missing. His body had risen up from the lake, and Billy was the only one of David's victims whose body that was ever found. And at this point, he had been abducting women for 34 of his 49 years of life. So 34 years, and he's 49 years old at this point. Over the next several years, he collected more torture tools. He even collected a bench from a gym and added straps and leg rests to represent a gyno chair, but with a painful twist. So, I apologise, this will be graphic. He added an electric wire so that he could send electronic shocks into his victim's body. I will let you imagine how that would go.
So, when I looked at the images, it just looked like a chair to me, because I don't go to the gym. But essentially, it's made a shock chair.
Yeah.
Am I right? It's like a chair, basically, that you could sit on and they'd shock you to death.
Right, so... Basically, so the chair, it's a gym bench, and you can adjust gym benches, so you can basically sit down on it. So it's probably adjusted, so it's like a chair. And 2 straps in front of it would be where you'd put your feet to open your legs wide, because that's what you'd be. That's what a gyno chair.
Gyno.
So it's like, yeah, a gynecologist chair. So basically, for the women will be aware of this. Some men might. But
Gym gynecologist. How are you spelling
just put gyno chair.
gyno chair?
So
Gyno.
Matt's looking at this, but for anyone who obviously this is only on audio. So you sit in the chair, you have your feet put in the straps that are in front of the chair, and your legs get spread apart. And this is just so everything's kept out the way for the gynecologist to do the inspection, the smear test, whatever. So basically, he recreated that.
I have seen these chairs.
You might have seen on like TV shows, sitcoms, whenever like there's a pregnant character or something. Like that tends to be a thing that's always like a thing that's featured. Like you'll always they're always in sitcoms.
TV shows, if you want to use that examples, but I was thinking of something else. I think.
Yeah, like if a better example, whenever there's a pregnant character on like a sitcom, you'll always see them sat in a gyno chair.
Because I kind of thought gynecologist, and I thought, well, I don't know what they exactly do, but now I know the chair you mean. Because the images were blurry on his like back van, so it just looked like a chair you could sit in and get shocked. But
gynecologist will, I'm not going to explain what a gynecologist does.
Yeah, I can kind of grasp it, so now I know what the chair is. Sorry.
Yeah. So basically, he had that, and then there was an electronic wire. The idea of it just being a wire should tell you where it went.
And it just gives you a very high shock.
Directly through the body because he's put it in them.
And then certain death, probably instant, right?
It depends on how many shocks he's used.
Or how high the voltage is.
Yeah.
Oh, shocks on the inside.
Mine's not even like the fact that it's shocks on the inside. Mine's on where he's fucking starting it.
Well, yes, sorry, that's mad.
like, nah.
No.
So, he was still abducting women while he was in Phoenix. He recorded a tape that he would play when his victims woke up in the torture chamber. He would explain on the tape what he was going to do to them and taunting them about how scared they must be. There you go, like so. In the same year, he tested out the effects of his tape, and when he abducted 2 sex workers. He abducted them at 2 different times. One he kept for 4 days, the other he kept for 5. He played the tape for both of them and watched them break down crying before doing what he said to them both. So he was watching them by a camera. So he's, sorry guys again. He said that he used ankle wenches to widen their pelvises to simulate the feeling of childbirth. A barbed steel bra, nipple screws, and weights. As his dark desires increased and his plans got increasingly worse, his other life started to basically go to shit. Diddums. He started to have issues with his wife, basically, and he said she knew what he liked in the bedroom, but she didn't want to do any of it, because why the fuck would you? Especially with his level. He said that she was jealous of other women, which is what caused them to drift apart, and he said over the years she got more and more crazy, and she started having epileptic fits, and at one point held a knife to his head. And obviously they got divorced in 1994, and the breakdown of the marriage, both of them moved out of the house, and David sold his second home, but he still got his trailer. But yeah, to simulate the feeling of childbirth, fuck that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what that feels like, and I'm never gonna know what that feels like. Thank the Lord, because it looks very painful.
Yeah, as long as they don't tear. But then again, he'd probably made that happen.
Yeah.
Fuck that. So he moved to a smaller town with fewer mechanic jobs available, and he eventually got a job at a state park, which would give him a government uniform, possibly making him much more dangerous because he now works at a state park.
Oh, Lord.
So he took full advantage of the uniform, obviously, because it made him appear a lot more trusting. People
approachable.
Yeah, exactly, which made this a lot easier for him to kidnap women. This allowed him to drive to different secluded areas across the state park, giving him more access to commit his crimes and dump the bodies. So He's just getting like a serial killer pass at this point. In 1995, he abducted 3 more women, all of them very young in age. He upgraded his toy box with medical books and kits to keep them alive longer. So he started to try and figure out how to keep them alive for longer despite his torture techniques.
Oh, that's a definite, like, Saw thing.
Yeah.
You know, like in Saw, the one when they have to put her hand down for all the needles.
Mm-hmm.
Or even in the first Saw film, when he, obviously Jigsaw is lying on the floor, and he used the, I can't remember if it was a pill or whatever it was, to slow down his heart rate, to simulate him being dead. And then after a while, that effect would go away, and his heart rate would increase again, and then he'd be able to get up and...
Yeah.
The thought of him having a book out, being like, right, I can make this person last longer.
Yeah. He
But
also...
not in a good medical way of, like, saving someone's life.
I know. He also bought boxes the size of coffins to put the women inside of and put under a bench, making it possible for him to capture 2 different women at the same time and keep them both hostage for longer periods of time. And obviously this made his victims a lot more fucking terrified. Even worse, he held 2 of the women at the same time and they could hear like the cries and the screams of all of the women as he was torturing them, so they basically knew what was coming. He continued abducting women until 1996. The most infamous one would happen on the 25th of July. He was in his home wanting to kidnap another person, and he had started taking Viagra because he got older, and he was like, oh, this is like the best thing ever. Haha, you have to use Viagra. Fucking sad cunt.
Sorry, I find you laughing at the
If you use Viagra, that's cool. Like, there's no like fair. Like, that's completely fine. It's just because he does it.
Yeah, you don't use it, and I don't use it.
No.
But
like, it's fine if you do, because some people need to. Like, do you? But the fact that we all know the reason why he's doing it.
yeah,
I'm gonna laugh at him. Like, when it comes to us talking about stuff like this, if anyone has any, like, insecurities and stuff like that, and it's completely normal to every other person on the planet, like, it's normal if someone does that, or has an issue, whatever, that's completely fine. We're only gonna laugh at these cunts.
yeah, like, if anybody needs to use it, that's fine. I needs to use laxatives, because they need to release a fucking tsunami's worth of a shit. That's fine. But if it's some fucked up individual that needs this stuff, we can laugh, because they are gonna rot in hell, and burn in hell, die in prison. Scums.
Exactly. So, when he's just sat in his house, taking his Viagra, the phone rang, and it was his daughter Jessie. And Jessie had called to tell him that she would soon be coming home with another toy for him. Don't like the fact that they use the word toy.
Yeah, the whole thing about the whole stigma around the word toy in this context is
Yeah, so he went to the toy box and he began to prepare. He rewound the tape and selected the torture devices that he wanted to use. At the same time, a 23-year-old woman named Kelly Van Cleve turned up. She had gone out drinking with a few of her friends after a fight that she had with her husband. He constantly wanted to have sex, but for her sex was painful. She had no idea why. Most likely a medical condition. Some women do have that. So, the night out was basically for her to forget about the fight and just, relax, which was, like, normal. So, but she was the driver that night, so she didn't really actually drink. She just wanted to be around her friends. And one of those friends was Jessie, who offered her a lift home. They went back to Jessie's motorbike, and 2 of them climbed on, and Jessie turned down the road, and Kelly pointed out that they went the wrong way. And Jessie said that she was a bit tipsy and that she needs to go home for some coffee to sober up a little bit. They pulled into the driveway of David's house, and Jessie told Kelly to sit on the sofa and that she wouldn't be long. Now she looked away for a second, thinking that, you know, she's gonna go home, see her husband again, and then from the other room, David came running in, holding a very long, sharp knife to her face, and said that she was now his and that she has to do what he says. I don't know if you've seen a picture of this guy, but I'm just picturing this old cunt running at me with a fucking knife, and I'm just like, oh, fuck no.
And a boner.
Oh, yeah, no, oh, God, there's nothing worse than an old guy with a fucking rock on when you're in your 20s and all.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean,
nah, like,
smartest thing to do is like
kick him in it.
try run him around so he runs into a wall.
Yeah, like, do something and aim it towards his dick, because like you hit that, he's fucked.
Ah.
Like, that'll be painful. Do it.
Do the thing where, you know, the game where you whack the hammer down and then you shoot the thing up and you try and get it to hit the bell at the top.
Yeah.
Not the thing going up your feet.
Yeah.
And you smack the bell at the top, which is his. Give it a right good. Because it hurts.
Yeah.
You don't know that feeling, Lauren, but I can tell you, it hurts.
Like, so I don't know if anyone else has watched the new movie on Disney Plus called Fresh.
No.
So basically, it was all over TikTok lately, and a lot of people being like, "Oh, why did I watch this before bed? I shouldn't have watched this before bed." And the only thing I knew about it was like Sebastian Stan plays a cannibal, and I was like, let's give this a watch. I watched it before bed. It's not that bad. You're all just wusses. It's fine. It's fine. I'm a person that doesn't like horror. It's not even a horror, and it's fine. It's just you don't see anything. Like, it's fine. Like, but there's a bit where like he basically spoiler alert if you haven't watched it yet, but he basically has kidnapped this girl that he was dating. He just like tricked her, and the whole point was that he kidnaps these women and then he plans to sell their meat because it's apparently a very expensive market, and she basically just tries to be nice to him to get out, basically to try and figure if she can escape. There's a bit where she's like, basically acts like she's gonna sleep with him, so she pretends like she's about to go down on him, and basically she just bites off his dick.
Wait, completely off?
Oh yeah, like you hear, and she goes down, and all you see is him screaming, and then she looks up and she's got blood all over her face. I'm like, fucking yes.
How do you do that? What?
I don't know, but I also don't care, because I'm also kind of looking at her going, fucking good on you. Well done. Proud of you. Well done. Fucking...
Yeah.
That is smart. Smart thing right there. Well done.
I can tell you, anyone who gets kicked in the balls, it severely hurts. Trust me. And as someone who has only one functioning kidney, oh, the pain, the pain, the pain.
So Jessie came back into the room, and after David is about to attack Kelly, and she comes back in holding a dog collar and handcuffs, and she puts them on Kelly and leads her to the toy box. When he opens the door, the smell of sweat, tears, and death apparently filled out, and there was a sign on the wall that read, this is so cringy, "Welcome to Satan's Den," with hand-drawn images of torture methods. You fucking cringy cunt.
Yeah, that's cringe.
That is so cringy. Like, no, like, that's cringier than Twilight.
Ooh.
That's how cringe you are, David. Like, cringier
Sorry,
than
Robert
Twilight.
Patterson.
Oh, I've been getting Alistair to watch Twilight lately.
Twilight sucks.
Oh yeah, it's terrible. But it's because we watched Batman, right? And on the way back, home, Alistair was like, I don't understand why people were very weird about Robert Pattinson playing Batman when he's been great in all this other stuff. And I was like, you've watched Twilight, haven't you?
Hold up. Watch Twilight, then you'll see.
Yeah. I was like, you've watched Twilight, haven't you? And he goes, no. I was like, we're watching Twilight. And he goes, no. I was like, yeah, no. You need to see why people were a bit weird about it. He's like, right, fine. So we got some wine in because he didn't want to watch it sober, which is understandable. And we put it on. He loves and hates it. So he hates how like cringy it is and how it makes him want to die. But he also loves how bad it is. Like, that's basically where he's at with it now. But he also, so we watched New Moon on, I think, Saturday. And he thinks Jacob looks like a pig. So he kept making pig noises the entire way through. We got a clip. Yeah, we got clips to go next. He's,
I mean, Twilight's bad, but it has some saving graces, and one of them is Decode by Paramore.
True. So yeah, they gone into Cringe Den, and the weight bench was in the center of the room. They strapped her down to the chair. They raised her legs and spread them apart. They got the knife and cut off her clothes, and he grabbed his video camera and attached it to the TV, where David explains everything that he would do to her. The next few days were basically a blur. You can't tell where I'm going with this. Kelly obviously does get out because Kelly remembers moments of the abuse that she got from David, and especially when he would use oversized dildos on her. And he said he used her for the satanic ritual that he had planned. For Kelly, sex was painful even when it was consensual, so this would have made it excruciating. So Kelly didn't know at the time, but she actually had a titled uterus, which means basically what a titled uterus is. It means that the uterus is angled backwards. So for Kelly, sex means it stretches some internal organs.
Oh.
So it's not pleasurable at all for her. So this would have been horrific. And he got really pissed off because he realized that he couldn't get his, he calls them instruments of torture, far enough inside of her because, you know, her uterus is backwards. So he then was like, you're pretty much useless to me, and so he said he had no problem getting rid of her. Over the next 3 days, Kelly remembered David torturing her at least 6 separate times. By the 3rd day, David was even more annoyed, and he injected a series of drugs into her arms. She said she could feel the memories of the last few days leaving her as she blacked out. And the last thing she remembered is David pushing her out of his car wearing his state park uniform. And as she turned her head, she noticed that she was out of the toy box and noticed that she was in front of a normal house. He grabbed her arm and brought her into the garden and knocked on the door. And he basically just brought her home. He literally brought her home. Like, her husband and his parents answered the door, and they these guys are cunts. They just glared at her and asked her where she had been, but she couldn't remember because of all the drugs. They got angry and accused her of running off to be with another guy, and David said that he found her wandering around the lake, and they turned her away and said they will file for divorce and how she isn't welcome with them anymore. So, yeah. David brought her back to his truck, but he dropped her off at a friend's house and said that she's basically free to go. And it took a good few years for the memories to come back, but she couldn't be certain if they were memories or if they were nightmares. Like, she just didn't know. So she never went to the police about what she could remember, because she just wrote them off as a really disturbing dream. But she didn't really know, but she was the only victim who survived. And he didn't stop for another 3 more years. But yeah. Fuck her ex-husband.
Yep.
Fuck that cunt. You don't need that cunt.
No.
But I'm glad she got away because obviously everything she does eventually, remember, becomes helpful. So after Kelly, Jesse and David met a woman called Cynthia. She had an abusive boyfriend who she did drugs with. She broke up with her boyfriend and she moved to New Mexico, but as she hung around the bar scene, she met Jesse and David. She became attracted to David, which I don't understand why.
He's ugly. How's the
He's
photo of him?
ugly, though.
Sorry.
He's so fucking ugly. What the bitch? Get bad taste, Jesus fucking Christ.
And we never like to shame someone's appearance, but he's a serial killer, fucked up human being. So I think we have some
yeah. Serial killers.
some leeway with making fun
Serial
of
killers, you can say that. You can take the piss out of how they look all you fucking want. Like, no. He's fucking ugly. Why? It's like when people were like, oh yeah, so many women just wanted to be with Fred West. Why?
Yeah, he's ugly.
Why? I want to know why. Like, what was it? They're always like, oh, but Fred was so good looking. I'm like, bitch, I know, like, some people around that time weren't exactly, like, the most attractive people on the planet. Because, quite frankly, the fashion sense of their hair was absolutely diabolical. But, come on.
Yeah, I mean, we all have types, but there's people that just, no, why would you even go there?
Half of these people that I talk about, half of these serial killers, would be on Jeremy Kyle if they were in the UK.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, if Jeremy Kyle still existed.
If Jeremy Kyle still existed, they'd be on Jeremy Kyle.
Mm-hmm.
Just fucking Fred West, just chilling there, being sat. Fred West would just be there with one of his, like, ex-wives, who's basically just being like, he got his sister pregnant. Like, that would be the thing.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
there'd be a lot more swearing, a lot more. Yeah, you fucking. I'm gonna call you for fucking. Nah, I'm not even speaking to them. Storms out the studio.
Do you remember the Jeremy Kyle episode where I can't believe I'm remembering a Jeremy Kyle episode, but I remember the clip, but it was like this guy just being like, "Do you like lime bars?" And then Jeremy was like,
Oh,
and then
yeah.
Jeremy was like, "Yeah, why?" He's like, "Well,
You're not gonna like him after this.
You're not gonna like him anymore because she used to use him as a Johnny." I was like, ah.
See, one of the best things from the Jeremy Kyle show was the one where there was a man saying he was getting abused by this girl, and the audience laughs, and Jeremy Kyle goes, No. If it was the other way around and he was abusing her, you wouldn't be laughing. So why are you laughing at the fact that this guy's getting abused or something like that? And then the audience kind of stopped and went, oh shit, why did we laugh?
Yeah, exactly.
Male abuse isn't funny either. But the show had some flaws with it on how it treated some folk. But
My mum used to find it as her entertainment by watching the Jeremy Kyle show to see if she recognised any of the parents. Because obviously my mum's a teacher, so she'd find it really entertaining just to be like, what's going to be the gossip when you pick up your kids this time?
I mean, apparently they did get therapy afterwards. They were given therapy. But a lot of people that went on there, not to hate, but like the appearance of them, you were like, oh, you know, they're the type of people that would be on this show. Because you can kind of tell by the way they look how they act, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
You know, when a lot of them looked like they did drugs, pretty much hard drugs, and they had that crooked teeth, and they wore trackies and jackets, you know what I mean?
Yeah. But yeah, David Parker is an ugly cunt, so...
Yes. If you look at the photo, ugly.
He's an ugly cunt. So, she met a younger... So yeah, she got attracted. She became attracted to David, and they started a relationship. But then she met a guy named Nancy, who had been convicted for murdering another man, and she introduced Nancy to David and Jesse. Nancy, David, Jesse, and Cynthia all had a shared interest in drugs and alcohol, and they were all meeting up to get very drunk and high. And they all realized that they had an interest in sexual sadism. How the fuck does that conversation come up? Like, I don't know about anyone else, but I don't exactly talk about that kind of detail with, like, every person I meet. I overshare, but not about that. But obviously later on, David and Jesse were like, "You gotta come see the toy box." So they show Cynthia and Nancy the toy box. No one knows how many victims they tortured with David and Jesse. However, one victim is known. In the early months of 1987, Nancy dated a woman called Marie Parker. He treated her pretty badly and they broke up. But Nancy took this very personally and he convinced David to kidnap her, and she was soon reported missing, but no one could find her. The case remained open. Meanwhile, Marie was locked in David's toy box by David. Jesse, Nancy, and Cynthia also helped, and they took turns torturing the girl for days and even weeks. David told Nancy to kill her and get rid of her body, and he did as he was told, and strangled her before tossing her body out of the car and burning her in the desert. Over the next 2 years, David, Cynthia, and Nancy abducted and tortured a number of women. Nancy travelled out of town and Jesse got her own place. Cynthia moved into David's place, and their next crime that they did together took place on the 17th of February 1999, when David was 59 years old and Cynthia was 39. They were very much well known in the partying community in the town, and there was a woman that they became friends with named Angelica. Angelica was known because she had a glass eye, and her friend said that she was kind and friendly, that she liked to bake, and since her boyfriend's birthday was coming up, she really wanted to bake a cake for him. David and Cynthia told her that they had some unused cake mix back at their house that she could use, so she went round to their place. She had known them for quite a bit at this point, so she was like, "Oh, I can trust them." When they went to the house, David pulled out a knife and held it to her face. She thought that he was joking before he punched her in the stomach. They stripped her down, chained her to a bed, and forced her to take drugs and listen to David's recorded message. They raped and tortured her for 2 days before taking her to the toy box, where they increased the torture. One of which was mostly being electronic torture. So she was attached to that gyno chair for 3 days with that electronic wire. But after 3 days, she started to lose hope, but she then decided to try and escape. So she decided to pretend that she was enjoying the torture, which is not what he wanted. I don't know how the hell you pretend to enjoy it, but Jesus Christ, props for the trying. Because on her 5th day, David was torturing her on his own, and she told him she enjoyed their time together, and she asked when she could go, and that her sons would be missing her, and she said that she would never tell a soul about what had happened, and that she enjoyed all of it, and David let her go. But Cynthia wasn't happy, because she thought that Angelica would go to the police, and on the 21st of February they cleaned Angelica up, drove her away, and dropped her on the side of the road before driving away. Angelica walked down the road and tried to hitchhike her way back home, but an off-duty police officer pulled over and offered her a ride. She got in the car and told him about how her friends had kidnapped her, tortured her, and raped her for 5 days. She detailed the sexual tortures and how they had let her go. However, Gary, the police officer, didn't believe anything that she said. So, fuck you, Gary. According to reports, the more intoxicated someone is, the more the police won't believe what they're saying. So,
wow, really?
Yeah. So Gary just didn't believe a single word she said, because she still had a tiny bit of the drugs in her system, And he didn't believe her until about a month later when David's toy box would be revealed. So, bet Gary felt a bit bad when that happened, eh?
Oh yeah.
Fuck you, Gary. On the 20th of March 1999, David Parker Ray and Cynthia drove to Albuquerque in their RV with full intentions of picking up a sex worker. In a short matter of time, they picked up a woman named Cindy Vigil. When she got into the car, Cynthia popped out of the bathroom and electrocuted her and put her in a box before driving her all the way back to David's house, which was on 150 miles away. So when she made like 150 miles to just have this girl in a fucking box.
What?
So whenever she made a motion towards an exit, they electrocuted her again. So whenever she tried to get out, they just started electrocuting her. They put a metal dog collar on her neck and chained it to the wall. They put on David's tape. She was obviously terrified straight away and started praying. For 2 days, they both raped and tortured her. Sometimes they would unchain her so she could go to the bathroom, but her collar was always on. She began to lose hope by the 22nd of March after a round of rape and torture. He loosened her chains so she could go to the toilet, and they had more planned that day, so he kept the chains a little bit more loose than usual. She could hear Cynthia watching TV, and she noticed something shiny next to her. Cynthia had basically left the keys to her locks right next to her, and she stretched and reached to grab the keys. And after a few minutes, she finally grabbed them and unlocked herself from the chains. She tried to unlock her collar, but it was a different lock, and she looked up and noticed the lock chained to the wall was the same to the other ones. So she unlocked the chain and ran from the room. When she entered the room, she saw Cynthia was on the sofa blocking the exit. Cynthia grabbed a lamp and tried hitting her with it, but missed. Vigil grabbed an ice pick and stabbed her with it before running out the door. People saw the girl running out of the house naked, only wearing a dog collar, and they brought her into their house until the police came. She explained everything to the police, and they went out to try and capture David. They found him with Cindy searching around. So they found him with Cynthia searching around for Vigil, basically. And they arrested him right on the spot. And which finally brought down then 59-year-old David Parker Ray. It's fucking 59 at this point. So naturally it took a lot of time to find everything out about David. But they went into the toy box and found everything.
I think there's videos on it, because I've seen this woman who seems to just be in the place.
Why'd you want to go in there?
Yeah, I think they got insider footage of the inside, which is yeah, there's a sign that says Satan's Den. Oh no.
Yeah, so they found a tape where David on the tape was explaining everything that he'd done, and that he had evidence of torturing a woman with a very distinctive tattoo. Police then realised that this woman was Kelly Van Cleve, and she had moved away to California at this point, and she had spent the last few years of her life thinking her memories were just a dark dream. But then, when the police found her, that she was very shocked to realise it was all real. Imagine just thinking, like, for years it was a horrible dream, and then it just turns out to be real.
Yeah. Oh no.
What?
That's a 34-minute Daily Motion video, but the thumbnail is of the wall with the drawings and stuff. Oh no. What's that? I don't know what that is in that frame, but there's clear drawings and writing and... Yeah, whatever that is, no, I don't want to look at that one. Oh dear. Uh-oh. That's a bit messed up. Now I see it. Whoa. Ooh.
So, Deputy Gary, remember Deputy Gary? He remembered the conversation that he had with the hitchhiker a month earlier, who he didn't believe. But now all this has come out of the woodwork. He's like, oh, wait, this hitchhiker I picked up literally told me the exact same shit as what's just been found. So he got in touch with Angelica, and she was also shocked about the fact that they had found out everything about David, but she was very eager to testify. Police found David's diary entries and demanded David explain every single one of them. And he did. He told them everything, except for the names of the victims. Now I doubt he even knew who they were. So he confessed to everything without truly confessing. They also questioned Jesse and Cynthia. Jessie refused to give up her dad, but Cynthia told them the same shit that David had already said. After this, they also arrested Nancy, who confessed to all of his murders and his involvement. Investigators searched everywhere for the bodies, but they found nothing. The only body that they had was the body of Billy. And David was never actually convicted of murder. But because 3 people testified against him, he was charged for these crimes. He was charged with 3 accounts of kidnapping, assault, unlawful sexual penetration, and others related to those crimes. So, he was sentenced to 224 years in prison. Which is a lot of time, and for the next 8 months he was interrogated by various members of law enforcement. And on the 28th of May 2002, he was placed in a holding cell while his paperwork got processed. And after being held in there for only a few minutes, his heart stopped. He had a massive heart attack that killed him instantly, and he was officially declared dead on the 28th of May 2002 at 8:40 p.m.
Wow, damn.
Yeah. So he did.
Thank the Lord that man's dead.
Yeah, he's dead. But it really sucks that we don't know what's happened to any of the victims. You just know ages, how long the torture took, and the location when it all all happened. Are you still looking at the toy box?
Yeah, no. I'm just thinking of the fact that victims don't know who they are, you know. You always want justice and to know who someone is so the families can be known, but
I
sadly.
know. It really fucking sucks.
Yeah.
I'm trying to find one that we can do for next week's. I'm thinking it's still fairly grim, but not as grim. Nowhere near as grim as that. But one that you might know. So, how about next week we talk about the Columbine massacre?
We could do that, and just as someone who is very, very into meme culture, the Columbine thing just is not taken seriously at all now.
No, it's not.
No, it's the amount of things I've seen, dark humor, jokes, and everything about that. It's just, some of that stuff is like, the stuff I've seen, I'm like, whoever made that, you are going to hell. It's a horrible thing. But, the fact is, loads of people do take it seriously, people die, but, meme culture's blowing it up, and it's become another, meme thing.
Oh
that's
yeah,
just
100%.
blown out of proportion. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I mean,
But obviously we're gonna take when we talk about it next week. We'll take it 100% seriously. It's going to with the amount with a lot of respect. We're gonna go into absolutely everything because I have everything on their lives. I've got what they did beforehand, the planning. I have absolutely everything, the time frames, and even the wrongdoings of the police force, stuff like that. So, but we will go into absolutely all that without taking, if not without taking the piss. I'll call them cunts.
yeah,
We'll call them cunts, but yeah, we'll go into that one next week. It's gonna be one where I feel like everyone just knows what it is.
yeah.
But yeah, we'll do that for next week. How did you find this one?
There was a couple things in that where it was a bit, they're on the edge, sort of like, I just can't.
Yeah.
But there was some very, very messed up stuff, and it's just like, no. No, 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 no.
Yeah, it's a very messed up case, that one. The bright side is he is very dead.
Thank the Lord he's dead.
So there's that part. And the ones who managed to get away, like, fucking props, especially the girl that managed to actually get herself, unlock her chains.
Yeah.
Badass.
That's always scary, though, that when, you're put in that situation and hardly any people manage to get away.
Yeah, exactly. It's very hard for people to get away from that kind of thing, so...
Yeah.
It does sound like Saw. 100% sounds like it. It wouldn't shock me if it was Saw. But yeah, that one was David Parker Ray, everyone. And I'm sorry that we couldn't get any info about the victims and stuff like that, but as we've already explained, not possible for that case. Next week we will be talking about the victims. I will be listing them out. So there's gonna be a bit more info on the victims for next week's episode.
Yeah, which is gonna be a tough one.
It's gonna be a tough one, but it's gonna be not as graphic as this one.
But it's tough considering that stuff happens quite daily in there. Mm-hmm. In America, and over here it doesn't, which I'm so glad for. But it's an issue that I've always, people joke about it a lot against Americans, and they just you always use the same joke of this, but I've always thought we joke about it, but you guys don't take it as a serious issue. This stuff happens a lot, and it shouldn't.
Yeah, exactly.
Take a note from other countries' books like us. We don't have those issues.
But yeah, we also will be talking about that part as well, about other countries that have had massacres and that have done something about gun laws and stuff like that. We'll 100% be talking about that kind of stuff as well. But until then, thank you, Matt, for joining me again. Got a good hour and a half out of this one.
Yeah, there's a lot of victims, but the fact I'm glad this guy got caught, because a torture chamber thing, I never thought we'd be speaking about a torture chamber thing of any kind, and looking at the images just seems like an absolute nightmare, hellish device, and just thoughts in my mind are not going good. Especially the fact is that looking at the images and it said it was soundproofed, and as someone who's a sound engineer, that sort of stuff, so that
Yeah.
nobody can hear you scream. You know when it's like nobody can hear you scream?
Yeah.
Like, no. But I'm glad this guy's now dead in his grave. What an evil man.
Exactly. And I'm not gonna lie, guys. You notice any signs of people being similar to this when you're growing up? Fucking just make sure. Let's just go check on them. Just go tell someone. Do something.
Yeah. If you see any signs of irregularities, if I can say it
There we
correctly,
go.
in someone, don't be scared to say anything or give note, because in this one there was, of a very young age, and it can progress to be like this. So
Exactly. And I have literally just like the entire movie of Enchanted is now finishing.
perfect timing, I guess.
Perfect timing. So I shall see you next time for
Yeah.
True Crime Friday. See you guys
Yeah.
next week.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.